Alright, today we're going to do an overview of the Competition Works Tail Tidy Kit right here from AOMC. We're going to do an installation overview and a comparison between that Tail Tidy Kit and the R&G Tail Tidy Kit available from AOMC. I think that this is a great Tail Tidy Kit because it's small and it's a little bit more discreet than this extended plate's going to be. However, for me and my wife, me being 240 pounds and my wife being all of 140 pounds, no matter how far you stiffen the suspension, which is right here, there's the adjustment for it, if you guys didn't know. No matter how far I stiffen the suspension, this still hits my tire when I go over a decent bump. So this is not going to work for me, which is why for me the R&G is better, simply because it takes it out further. It takes it out further past the tire to give you more clearance before it would ever actually hit the tire. I'll give you guys a brief overview of how to take this off, which will give you an idea of how I put it on. I used the stock bulb housings. There's a variety that are available from AOMC for it. But I didn't feel like spending the money on those because these work just fine, and I don't think they're too god-awful ugly. So basically, this plate mounts underneath of here. The same place uses one of the same bolts as the grab bar. The grab bar right here, which I'm sure a lot of people take off, but I like it. So this plate just bolts right on here. I kept the reflectors from the actual mud flap that was right here, just to give me a little bit more visibility because people are crazy. And then the biggest thing you have to do is it's going to come with this yellow and black and yellow wires that you're going to have to plug in to the original cord that ran underneath the frame and followed the swing arm and then was ran through the attachment arm, I guess you could say, for the actual mud flap. So you have to reroute that, take it back through the other side, and then you're gonna run it. This is the cord right here, plugs in right there. You're gonna run it underneath your seat and it's gonna pop out. Right here. This is where I brought it up to. And then you have all this extra cord that I just have it laid in here, kind of nice. And this is where it actually connects to. And you do actually have to use whatever the heck these connectors are called and crimp them to connect the original wire to the wires that it came with. These are the wires that are connected to the housing for your license plate light. This comes with the Tail Tidy Kit from Competition Works. And as you can see, I've got the yellow ran to the white, black and yellow runs to black. Makes sense. Pretty simple. And that is really, that's the gist of it. That, and you have to unbolt these lights from the original mud flap, and then honestly they just bolt in to the Tail Tidy right there. And then you can see the bolts that are ran through the actual license plate cover, or frame I should say, to hold the license plate on. And I also used those bolts to attach the reflector to it as well, like I said, to give myself some more visibility. So that's it for the Competition Works. It's pretty simple. I'm going to switch over to the R&G right now, and you guys will see the visible difference, and we'll look at the clearance. I'll measure it for you guys and get two comparisons. The bolts that hold the grab bar and the license plate frame into here that the bike obviously came with are M8s by 20s, which I'm fairly certain uses a number 8 Allen. And I have mine a little bit too tight. So I lost mine because the person that I bought the bike from had tried to put his own version of the Tail Tidy Kit on, drilled holes in the underside of the bike and everything. But anyways, I just got some hex head metric 8x20s. There goes one. And they fit in there. They fit in there perfect. There's enough room to get a number 14 socket in there, just so you guys know if you ever have to replace them. Here's the instructions. I'm the loser that lost them. And it even comes with some really cool stickers, you guys. So anyways, it's even got the torque settings for the bolts that it comes with, and it's going to tell you that the tools that are required for the job. So it looks like these are the kind of instructions that I like, that are straight to the point and tell you every little thing you need, because I am not I'm not a bike mechanic. Imagine that. So we'll start following this by the book and see where it leads us. Alright, so for the RNG kit, I'm going to skip the first 4 pages because I already have a delete kit, a tail tidy kit on mine. So my swing arm bracket's already been removed and all that. For those of you who are getting rid of the mud flap for the first time, you need to follow pages 1 through 4. But if you've already got the competition works and you're switching over to the tail tidy for more ground clearance from RNG, then this will be what you need to do. The first things first, this is the license plate frame light. Just got to route those 2 cords through here. You can see that the little mounted machine screws poke through those 2 holes right there. And there's itty bitty little tiny washers that are just so easy to lose, that come with the kit, that you have to slap onto these machine screws and tighten down. When it comes to hardware being this small, definitely don't over tighten it. It's going to be super easy to strip that bolt or that machine screw, and it's also going to be super easy to cross thread it. So if you can't get the nut started easily, then you're cross threaded and you need to readjust before you start to tension it. And it might be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it's a lot less of a pain in the butt than if you do actually end up stripping these, because that's going to suck really bad. These little tiny nuts right here are going to take a number 6 socket. When you mount the blinker into the frame, you're going to want to do the blinker without the hardware on it, without this on it. Stick it through, run the washer down the cord, run this washer down the cord, and then put the nut on. Now if you're like me and you're using the stock blinkers instead of RNG's blinkers, this, which would originally go down the cord and then cover up the nut for the blinkers, isn't going to work for me unless I cut it a little bit, because the diameter of the small end of this is far too little for the size of the original blinkers tab to go on. Unless you want to cut that off, I mean, run it through, but that's ridiculous. Alright, so there's the boots that go over the cords for the blinkers. That's one of the little sleeves that they send with you in the packet. That goes over the license plate light cords, and then you run them through these holes. Notice how I'm holding this. You run them through the holes, over the top, and then back in through the holes that are underneath of this. See how they're sticking out there? And then you go ahead and mount this little H brace here over the top of the wires. Cleans up the look of it. These little tiny bolts right here take a 2.5 Allen, a 2.5, itty bitty little fellas. And we'll move on to the next step. By the way, I forewarn you now, this little guy right here was not easy to get over the tops of these terminals. So bring a can of patience with you. There's some holes through the bottom of this bracket where the wires came back through for you to put the zip ties that come supplied with the RNG. That way you can hold them in place with those zip ties, and then we'll go ahead and cut off the excess. Alright, just got back. Oh, there we go. Just got back from the hardware store. Had to get some longer M8s to go underneath of the bike, right under there, because I am going to retain my grab bar. So when you mount the Competition Works, you can actually do it to where this sits kind of like, oh, let me try to simulate it better than that. Basically, it can sit like that, where this can sit recessed into the underside of the bike because of this. That can go directly underneath a bit on top of the grab bar, so that way you can still basically use the same length bolts. However, this is flat, so it can't allow this part of the grab bar to go into the bike. So I just need a little bit longer bolts, and I got some M8s by 45s that are definitely going to work. I made sure that they had enough threads sticking out to grab into it. So I'm going to mount it up now, and then we'll start running the cords. What I should have said is that it doesn't allow the bolts to sit recessed into that cavity anymore. That is why, because this is going to be mounted on top of this. Proof that it works with the longer bolts. Still got the grab bar, and there's the wires hanging down, so now I just got to connect those to the existing ones. Alright, so everything's wired up now. We've got the blinkers connected, right side, left side. Use one of their fancy doodads to connect the license plate light to the power source. I did red to yellow, black to blue. Not sure if it matters, but my light is working. Also, guys, I went ahead and rerouted the wires. Originally, they have you run it up. Let's see, run it up through the holes in the bracket. Okay, run it through the channel that you mounted, and then run it back down through these holes, and then over to your connections. But the problem is, this is directly above the tire. I wanted as little wire exposed as possible, so I went ahead and took this H-brace back off, pulled them out of the hole, and ran it directly through like that. And I did use the zip tie holes again to hold the cords in place. So now I'm just going to pull the excess cord back through and get it securely fastened, and then we'll get to the license plate mounting, and I think we'll be just about done. Now, before we tighten up the bolts that are going through the grab bar and the frame that connect it back to the bike, I can't emphasize enough to make sure that you do run these cords through the channel that's in between the bolts. That way, when you tighten this one down or this one down, or whichever side you decided to take it through, because you can take it through this side too if you wanted. I just happen to have better lighting over here because it's getting dark. Just make sure that those don't get smashed when you tighten this down, because then you're gonna have to replace the wire. Now, I do think it is important to note that there are holes there that you could probably route these wires through rather than putting them in through here. But I just don't find it practical to try to run all three of these through there. It's just kind of a pain in the butt. Plus, I know I can pull all the slack out and maintain this height rather than having it dropped down another ½ inch or so to be ran through here. So that's what I'm gonna do. Do it however you like. It's worth mentioning now before I forget, being it that I was attaching it to the grab bar, I did have to remove these. What that is it's the piece that would go on the top side of the bracket, and it would be recessed into the bike the same way that the grab bar is recessed in right there. All right, so we're all done now. Everything's on, everything works. No complaints from me. I do have to say I do like the RNG tail tidy a tiny bit better. It doesn't look much different, but the big difference for me is that at the smallest point, our clearance here is about 6.5 inches, and with the Competition Works, it hung down like this, directly above the tire, and at the closest point was about 5 inches of clearance. So I've gained about 1.5 inches of clearance going back to this one. Again, my wife and I together on this bike, the Competition Works frame would end up actually hitting the tire, which is not fun. Also, furthermore, I do like the instructions that came with the RNG a little bit better. I think they're a little bit more clear. I added the reflector that came with the pack and all the tools. I put the little RNG decal that they added with it. Like I said, I like having as much visibility as possible when I'm on the motorcycle, so I did keep my reflectors for the sides and added in the one that they went ahead and included. Now the RNG, like I said, I do like the instructions a little bit better that came with it. They're a little bit more in depth. However, the pictures are hard to decipher, to say the least, and the instructions that go in steps aren't in order with the pictures, so you can't follow the instructions and look at the pictures at the same time. Back to safety, it included that reflector for the back that I put on top of the actual license plate light you see right there, and it also came with these reflective stickers, which are nice. I put one on and I took it back off, and here's the reason why. It clashes a little bit too much with the scheme of the bike for me. I wish I could say that I liked them enough to keep it on there, but I can't do it. It's just a little bit too ugly for me. But it's nice that things like that are included. I do have some excess parts here. Look at all that stuff. That's all the stuff that I didn't use. Well, there's a couple extra things that I threw in there. But there's some more shrink tubing in here that I didn't use. And also you can see the extra connections. And the reason being is that what I didn't realize when I ordered this is it also comes with the setup to add on the RNG blinkers if you want to in the back. And they don't come with the RNG tail tidy kit, but the kit does, however, come with everything that you need to put those blinkers on there. It's got wires, connectors that already have the resistors plugged in for the LED tail lights, so that's really nice. But yeah, all in all, I'm gonna say I do like the RNG more. It's a little bit more expensive. I want to say like maybe $75 more, something along those lines. Could be wrong, but that's it. We're done. If you guys liked it, let me know if there's any tips and tricks that you guys know of in terms of doing this. Maybe you've done it yourself. Maybe I made it take longer than it should have, or made it more complicated than it should have. Just go ahead and add it in the comments. I take constructive criticism very well, and I think everybody else would appreciate it too. So thanks very much.